A world in crisis, the Russia-Ukraine war. The world watches in shock and disbelief. A major war has erupted in Europe. Russia, a global superpower, has invaded its neighbor, Ukraine. This conflict has sent shockwaves across the globe. It has sparked a humanitarian crisis, with millions displaced from their homes. The war has also upended the global economy, disrupting supply chains and causing energy prices to soar. The Russia-Ukraine war is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the 21st century. The conflict is rooted in a complex web of historical grievances, political ambitions, and security concerns. To understand this war, we must delve into the past and examine the key events that led to this moment. We must also analyze the perspectives of both sides and explore the potential consequences of this conflict. This war is not just about Ukraine and Russia, it has implications for the entire world. A history of tension roots of the conflict. The relationship between Russia and Ukraine is deeply intertwined. Both nations share roots in Slavic civilization and were once part of the Soviet Union. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a turning point. Ukraine declared its independence, a move that Russia initially accepted. However, this newfound independence was not without its challenges. Ukraine found itself caught between Russia and the West, struggling to forge its own path. The issue of Crimea, a peninsula on the Black Sea with a majority Russian population, became a major point of contention. After Ukraine's independence, Russia maintained control of the Sevastopol naval base in Crimea under a lease agreement. This agreement, while controversial, allowed Russia to maintain a strategic presence in the Black Sea. However, the 2014 annexation of Crimea by Russia shattered any semblance of stability in the region. This event marked a significant escalation in tensions and set the stage for the current conflict. The Crimea crisis, a turning point. In 2014, following a revolution in Ukraine that ousted the pro-Russian president Viktor Yanukovych, Russia took decisive action. Russian troops without insignia moved into Crimea. They swiftly took control of key infrastructure and military installations. A hastily organized referendum, widely condemned as illegitimate by the international community, was held. The result? An overwhelming majority voted to join Russia. The annexation of Crimea was met with international condemnation and sanctions against Russia. However, it also emboldened pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. Armed conflict erupted in the Donbas region, pitting Ukrainian forces against Russian-backed separatists. This conflict, simmering for years, would ultimately serve as a prelude to the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Section 4. NATO expansion. A Russian perspective. From Russia's perspective, the eastward expansion of NATO, the Western military alliance, has been a major source of concern. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, NATO gradually admitted former Soviet bloc countries into its fold. This expansion, according to Russia, shifted the balance of power in Europe and posed a direct threat to its security. Russia argues that NATO's open-door policy, which allows any European country to apply for membership, is a form of encirclement. The potential for Ukraine, a country sharing a long border with Russia, to join NATO, was a red line for the Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly stated that Ukraine's NATO membership would be unacceptable and would trigger a harsh response. Section 5. Key facts, understanding the conflict. The full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine began on February 24, 2022. Russian forces launched a multi-pronged attack, targeting key cities across Ukraine, including the capital Kyiv. The invasion has resulted in a massive humanitarian crisis with millions of Ukrainians displaced internally and seeking refuge in neighboring countries. The United Nations estimates that over 10 million people have fled their homes, making it one of the largest refugee crises in recent history. The international community has largely condemned Russia's actions. The United States, the European Union, and other countries have imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, targeting its economy, financial institutions, and key individuals. Military aid has poured into Ukraine from Western countries, providing crucial support to the Ukrainian armed forces. The war in Ukraine is a defining moment for the post-Cold War order, testing the resolve of the international community and raising profound questions about the future of global security. Section 6 on the ground: latest developments. The situation on the ground in Ukraine remains fluid and highly volatile. After initial setbacks, Russian forces have regrouped and focused their efforts on eastern and southern Ukraine. Fierce fighting continues in the Donbas region, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Russia has made some territorial gains, but Ukrainian forces are putting up stiff resistance, bolstered by Western military aid. The war has entered a protracted phase with no end in sight. International efforts to mediate a ceasefire have been unsuccessful. The conflict has devolved into a war of attrition, with both sides digging in and preparing for a long and bloody conflict. The human cost of the war continues to mount, with civilian casualties rising daily. Section 7. The war continues. A global impact. The Russia-Ukraine war is a global crisis with far-reaching consequences. The conflict has exacerbated existing tensions between Russia and the West, pushing the relationship to its lowest point since the Cold War. The war has also had a profound impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains, fueling inflation, and raising concerns about energy security. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy for both countries and a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. It is a conflict that has no winners, only losers. As the war drags on, the international community must continue to provide humanitarian assistance to those affected by the conflict and work towards a peaceful resolution. The future of Europe, and indeed the world, hangs in the balance.